Sunshine when she's gone, she's always gone too long. Anytime she goes away, I wonder this time where she's gone. I wonder if she's gone to stay. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. See, now I'm on a roll. She goes out. I know, I know, I know, I know, hey. I know, I know, I know, I know, hey. I know, I know, I know, I know. You gotta leave the young tramp alone. Hello, Community. My name is Storytime, and this is a story time. It was December 1st, 2015, that I went to court and became an emancipated minor. So I decided to tell this story of when I became an emancipated minor because last week it was December 1st, and when that day came, I started thinking about everything, like the actual moment in court, meeting with my lawyers before then, seeing my dad for the first time, leading up to when it happened, and then seeing him in court, seeing my sisters in court, the judge talking to me, the way I froze and started shaking as I was speaking. Like, I just started to think about everything, and mainly just the fact that my life looks nothing like how I thought it would. 3 years ago, when everything happened, I wasn't sure where I would end up, but I definitely didn't think I'd be where I am. So I just want to dive in. Whoa. Okay, so I don't really know where to start because there's a lot of context that I'm not going to get into, just because this video would be like 3 hours long, and I don't even think I would cover everything even after that. Like, there's just a lot of fuck shit. So I'll just start with the fact that back in 2015, or no, 2014, excuse me, I separated from my birth parents. How that happened is another story. I'll just do another video about that. But back in 2014, literally the day before sophomore year started, I got into like something with my mom. It wasn't even like an altercation. It was just like an incident. And she kicked me out. I was also ready to go, eager to go. And I called a woman that I knew, and I asked her if she could pick me up. She came around the corner because she had dropped me off literally 5 minutes before all the fuck shit went down. So she came and she picked me up, and I had like two bags. I had a black garbage bag that was full of like my journals and like all my diaries since the second grade, and my song binder. And then I had this little plastic bag that had some clothes in it, and I remember just grabbing everything from under the bed, the bunk bed that I shared with my sister, while my mom was on the phone with my dad, like screaming and telling me how she was gonna, like, how when my dad got home, like, it was about to go down, aka I was about to get a beat down, aka I was about to get my ass handed to me. And I was like, yeah, you're funny, like, not this time, maybe all those other times, but not this time. So I grabbed my shit and dragged it up the street. I remember I dragged my bags down the stairs. The bag of journals was like heavier than the bag of clothes, which just lets you know what my priorities were. So I dragged them down the stairs and up the street, got into the car, and the woman drove me to her house. Now, I can do a million story times about who this woman is and who this woman became to me, but that will just have to wait. Just to put things succinctly, this woman became my legal guardian for a year, because the next day that all this fuck shit happened, I went to school. I started sophomore year, and I had to tell them that I was no longer living with my birth parents, and they were going to put me in a shelter. They were like, you need to, like, we need to get you into a home because right now you're homeless. And my legal guard, the woman that became my legal guardian, was like, oh no, like that's not going to happen. Like I'll take her in. And I told them that I'd rather go with her than go to a shelter, because I had been in foster care before, and I didn't want to go to a shelter. I didn't know this woman enough, honestly, to be like, oh yeah, like I'll just go live with her. But I felt safer with her than I anticipated myself feeling in a shelter. So, and she was open to it. So like I ended up living with her. And long story short, I got this woman she is a caseworker, and she helped me get through to my dad. She was like a mediator between us, so she would go to him to tell him how I was doing, and eventually he agreed to give away his guardianship to my father, no, not my father's mother, my legal guardian, for a year. So in my head, I was like, okay, I have a year to figure out how I'm going to get emancipated. I have a year to get some lawyers and really make this happen, so that by the time I'm 16, which is the age you have to be in order to petition for emancipation, it will go through, or at least I'll have the chance to. So sure enough, in 2015, I did some research, and I found out that there is like a pro bono law firm in the town that I live in. So I got some lawyers to represent me for free, and I went to them, met them in person. I told them about everything, like just kind of put everything on the table, and I was like, will you guys please help me? And they hesitated at first for reasons I'm not going to mention, but it's connected to my family. And then the woman was like, yeah, okay, we'll help you. Like, well, like, I hope you understand everything that she said to me before about my family, but nonetheless, she was like, I will help you, I will represent you. So I met with her maybe like 2 or 3 times. And then she explained to me that when you want to become an emancipated minor, you have to petition. So you have to write out this petition, which your lawyers will help you do. And in that petition, you explain to the judge who will read it everything, like all your reasons as to why you should be emancipated, where you come from, who you are, and how you're supported already. Because just anybody cannot get emancipated. Like, yes, you have to be 16, and that's like the major requirement, that you're between the ages of 16 and 18. But if you don't have like a job, like a steady income, if you don't have a roof over your head, if you are not doing well in school, if you don't have any sort of um, stability in place, like you're not going to get emancipated. They're going to say no. Also, the other part, which is to me the suckiest part of it all, is that if your parents deny your petition, it will not go through automatically. So just think about this. So say your parents are like beating you, starving you, neglecting you, whatever, and you petition to the fucking government. You say, I really need to get out of this situation for such and such reasons, and they're like, okay, bring your parents to court, and your parents come to court, and they're like, no, we're not going to allow you to. It's like, of course, if they're neglecting you, of course, if they're like not treating you well, they're not going to let you go through with the petition. Why should the onus of responsibility be on your parents if they're the people that you want to get away from? That makes no sense to me at all. And I think my lawyer tried to explain it to me. It still doesn't make sense to me, because I'm like, obviously, if my parents are neglecting me, they don't want me to thrive. And if I petition to someone and say, please help me get out of this situation so that I can thrive, or strive for something and have a better chance of getting it, my parents are going to stand in the way of that if they've already been doing that. So why should you allow them to determine if I should get out or not? Like, that should be up to somebody else. And you would think it would be up to the judge, but not really if your parents can like veto it. So I just thought that fuck shit was ridiculous. But moving on. um, so my lawyer explained this to me during one of the meetings, that if my dad or if my mom said that I couldn't get emancipated, then like the judge has no choice but to grant them that and to not let it go through. So with that being said, she encouraged me to do 2 things. One, to invite my dad down to the firm so that we could all meet together, which I was very scared to do. And the other thing she told me to do is not mention the extent of what my living conditions were like when I lived with my family, because I have younger siblings who are minors. And she was like, I don't want an investigation to be opened up due to the fact that you like maybe said too much, or maybe, you know, like maybe you mentioned some things that would strike a red flag to the judge. And she was like, I just don't want that to happen, because then instead of you getting emancipated, it'll just, that will be put on the back burner so they can investigate what's going on with your family. And she's like, if you don't want that to happen, I probably wouldn't mention certain things, which you can read about in my book, because I'm not going to mention it here. Even though I felt like that might be one reason as to why the judge might not grant me my emancipation, I listened to my lawyer and decided not to include certain things. And what I mean is, I figured that if the judge thought my situation, the situation I was trying to leave permanently, um, wasn't like severe enough or like wasn't damaging enough, then maybe she would be like, no, you'll be fine. Like, you can hang in there, girl. And so that's why I wanted to just include everything, like everything that I've experienced, like word for word, moment after moment after moment. But my lawyer was like, no, this is not an essay. Like, you're not going to do all of that. So I crossed my fingers and hoped that the petition that I did write would be good enough. And as for meeting with my dad, I don't remember how long like it was between the second or third time I met with my lawyer and the time my dad showed up. I don't remember how that all came about, but I'll just say like one day, like in the month leading up to the month I got emancipated, my dad showed up, and I remember I was dropped off at the clinic, or not the clinic, excuse me. I was dropped off at the law firm, and I was walking up to the door, and I just turned to my side. Whenever someone's staring at me, I can feel it. I don't know why, I don't know how, but I always feel it. So I turned to the side, and this man is sitting in the car, and I look at him, I'm like, gee, that's my dad. And I, mind you, I have not seen my dad in a year at this point. Like the entire year that I lived with my legal guardian, I was like not in contact with my dad or anything like that. So he got out of the van. It was like he was waiting for me to show up or something. He got out of the van, and I just expected him to be so mad at me. Like, I expected him to just walk, like look at me like, and then keep walking. I don't know why. I guess when you spend a lot of time away from someone who has done you wrong in some way, like in your mind, um, it's easier to demonize them. Like, you think of all the things that they've done to you, you think of all the ways that they have harmed you, and you sort of just focus on that more than you do all the other aspects about them. Like, no matter what, I will always have memories, I think, of um, every person who I no longer fuck with or talk to like that, or don't really have the nicest things to say about. I will always have good memories with them as well as the bad ones, but sometimes it's easier to focus on the bad ones and demonize those people, because then it's like an excuse to not reach out to them or show them empathy or compassion. So I guess with my dad, like, I just expected him to be as angry and hard to reach as I remember him being. And fortunately, that's not how he was, at least in the parking lot. Like, he embraced me, and he just asked me if I was okay, and if he was like, are they treating you right, wherever you are? And I said yes. And he said, okay, that's good. And then we both walked to the building and into the elevator, and it was just very quiet. And I was just sitting there in my feelings. And then we went up to the space and we met with my lawyer. And pretty much that's where the whole like soft demeanor changed. Like, my dad was just like sort of stone cold in the face as my lawyer's talking to him about how everything is going to go down. Like, we're going to meet with the judge. It's important that we're on time. She's going to ask you to explain and wherever you stand, and me to explain wherever I stand, and then ask you what your final decision is. Da 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 da. And my dad was like, I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to grant her this emancipation. And I'm looking at him like, shorty, what? Like, are you serious? Are you serious? Like, but he was like, yeah, I'm not going to, like I'm not going to go through with this. She's my daughter. I'm not going to let her like be separated from me, and like legally, because if you don't know, and if I haven't explained it by now, so when you become an emancipated minor, you become your own adult basically. So you're your own guardian, like you sign your own papers and stuff. And like whenever something calls for like a parent's approval or permission, like you are your own parent, so to speak, at least legally. So my dad was saying like, no, I'm not gonna accept that, like I'm not going to grant her that, and I'm just telling you now, like when we go to court I'm going to say no. So he got up and he left, and I was just sitting there with my lawyer, just sort of fighting back my tears because I don't usually cry in front of people, I don't like to. um and I just remember like she was just like, well, I don't really know, like, if there's a point in going anywhere from here, Starlini, because in the state that I live in, it's not like people get emancipated often. That's not a common thing. One, and two, if you're, like I said, if your parents are gonna say no, like it's a wrap. It's a wrap with a bow on top. So I was just like, nah,